LFHG'S Growing On You Live Season 13 is brought to you by Vertigo Music. Find Vertigo Music at 129 South Division Avenue, Grand Rapids, Michigan 49503, or at vertigomusic.gr. Once again, find Vertigo Music at 129 South Division Avenue, Grand Rapids, Michigan 49503, or at vertigomusic.gr.
Get this thing.
Tim,
What is up, dude?
what's up?
How's it going? Shit.
Pretty good. How are you?
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. First and foremost for taking the time today. This is sick. I've been anticipating this, my man.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. So here on Growing On You Live, basically what we got going on. I have one initial introduction question for you. The remainder of the interview is about you and your craft. The long span that you've had in music, playing music and different things. And then I have one finale that I wrote just for this episode. So if you're all comfy, my dude, we're going to get this bad boy going.
All right, let's go.
Sweet. All right, we're just going to get the obvious ones out of the way right off the bat here. Let me ask you, if you had the opportunity, you were touring with Nine Inch Nails, right? One tour, and they asked you you could play any 3 songs that you wanted, the whole catalog. They said 3 songs that you can play that you want, that are your favorites. What 3 songs are going to be included in the set list?
3, if I were playing 4 Nine Inch Nails and picking Nine Inch Nails songs.
Yep.
Somewhat Damaged, which, hey, we know all about.
Yeah.
Let's see. Dang. Into the Void, I think would be a good one. And one more. The Big Come Down.
Ooh, man.
So I guess all Fragile songs.
Yeah. Sick. Yeah, for sure. I mean, and that's funny too. I mean, as far as, mentioning Somewhat Damaged, that song's harder to play than what it fucking seems. You hear it and it already sounds confusing, but god damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Might be one that you get on stage, you're like, fuck, I messed up.
Yeah.
All right, so let's kind of, recap back a little bit as far as, being a little kid and kind of first recognizing music. What were some earlier memories as far as music, albums, songs that gained your interest?
The first, on my own, that I wasn't, introduced to by listening in, my parents' car was probably Teenage Politics by MXPX.
Oh, okay.
That was, my brother showed it to me. And, the stuff that I was raised on initially was, just, Christian rock albums, which I loved and everything, but they all had, at least one, ballad, a serious song on it. And the thing that, really blew me away about MXPX was there was none of that. And when I was a very young child, and so that just blew me away that you could write an album without a ballad, which is funny to think about now. But
right.
That was probably my first and biggest influence as far as steering me down my path.
Okay. And you mentioned some of the stuff that was playing in your parents' car. Do you have memories of certain things that popped out to you that you're like, hey, what is this? I would like to look further into that.
I was always drawn to, even if it was Christian rock music, I was always drawn to the heavier sounding stuff. Mm-hmm. So whatever had a distorted guitar or something spoke to me the most, which I think made the transition into punk and metal and hardcore.
Oh, okay.
Make a lot more sense for me. So
yeah, for sure. Was that MXPX record? Was that one of the first things that you remember buying for yourself, going to a CD store?
I bought it from my brother, actually. his copy that he showed me.
Oh,
that was
nice.
The first album that I spent my own money on, and
nice.
Great memories of that.
Yeah, he's like, you're not just borrowing this, man. You're gonna give me some money for this shit.
Yeah.
That rules. Okay, so a little bit further down the line, even saying, going to a record shop or a CD shop and kind of sifting through some stuff and seeing something, that you chose solely off of the cover art. What would be something that pops, in your mind as far as, something that drew you, maybe you weren't even familiar with?
Probably whatever looked the most punk to me. I used to get a bunch of I was raised on like tooth and nail records, so like Christian aggressive music, punk, hardcore. So like the Dingies, an old Southern California ska Christian band. I remember getting their first album when I was like not even old enough to drive.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, stuff like that probably would be my first introduction to stuff like that.
Okay, okay. And with labels like that, you know, as far as like Tooth and Nail, and I'm trying to think of the other one too that had some, you know, were there what were like some of the bands that, you know, just looking from like a label that you were introduced to that you hadn't known before that?
Well, I mean, Tooth and Nail had Solid State, which was like their subsidiary. Yeah.
Right. Okay. That was the one I was thinking of.
Yeah. So like Zayo, Living Sacrifice, Training for Utopia, all that stuff is like, I still love it.
Right.
So
like you find that stuff and you're like, whoa, there's definitely no ballads on this.
yeah. Especially as like a middle schooler.
Yeah.
Like
right.
that stuff was just like crazy to me.
Yeah.
And I loved it so much.
So, you know, funny as far as like bringing up, like as far as like the Christian upbringing and different things, because I was, you know, in the same situation too, you know, but like my brothers I had where, you know, they were kind of always listening to Slayer and, you know, some of this other shit that it was just like very much like my parents were not like, nah, dude, you are not listening like that's not going down your path. Did you have anything, you know, where you had to like maybe slip the disc in like a different, you know, case just to haul around the house?
Actually, back then, like my parents didn't even like the screaming in Christian music. Like they didn't like the anger of it. So I had to be kind of like sneaky about listening to stuff like that, even like, you know, putting it on headphones and like turning it down.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then later, like as I got older, they loosened up a whole bunch, and obviously like I got more independent and checked out.
Yeah.
Went like way further down.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's funny. I mean, like mentioning with that though, because you know, that was very much like the same thing with me. Like I remember being a little kid and literally sitting outside of my brother's door, acting like I'm playing toys, and just like listening to like Chaos AD or like, you know, like a Slayer album or some shit. Like I wasn't supposed to, you know, so it was kind of like that draw where it's like, all right, let me check some of this shit out because I know I'm not supposed to be listening to this or, you know, watching this movie or something, and it kind of draws you in a little bit more.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Whatever your parents tell you not to get into, that's exactly what you're drawn to.
I remember feeling like such a criminal when I was in a store. I can't even remember what one it was, but I was buying a Rage Against the Machine album, and it had a parental advisory sticker. So I was peeling like the price tag off of the front of it to cover up the parental advisory sticker so I could get it.
Nice.
And then we go to like check it out, and they're like asking for my parents' ID or I don't. They said maybe it wasn't asked for ID, but there was some sort of like a marker like asking for like, oh, is this for you? You're like, oh, okay, you know, and they're just kind of looking at me like, why are they asking this? You know, it's, oh, I don't know. It doesn't have a parental advisory.
Yeah.
You little bastard. Oh boy, I haven't thought of that in a long time. So now, so a little while back on one of your social medias here, you had 10 influential albums, and I wanted to go over a couple of them here. I wanted to mention the first 5 that you'd mentioned. So you've kind of already gone into, you had mentioned MXPX's Teenage Politics. The second one you'd mentioned was Zayo's Where Blood and Fire Bring Rest. Tell us about an earlier memory of that album and maybe like the first track that you heard off it, how you're introduced, so on.
I don't know if I remember the first track that I heard off of it, but I remember that was the first album that I heard that like scared me. Like it was like, I couldn't believe that somebody could make their voice sound like that. And just the music was so intense. And I mean, it's still one of my favorite albums ever, especially like aggressive albums. It's top 2 probably. The other one's probably another Zayo album. But I remember I was in 6th grade and one of my friends had that album, and I think he let me borrow it. And I just was like, it didn't sound human. Like I couldn't believe that it was like being music that was being made, and especially by like a Christian band at the time.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's definitely something, you know, where I think that was like such a bigger thing. And even people kind of mention nowadays, you know, as far as like it gives it like a different shade or something by saying that it's labeled a Christian band or whatever, but it's like, just listen to it. Like you don't have to go into it for like what label it's on or like what their, you know, personal interests or beliefs are. Like, listen to it. The shit rips, you know, like why would you not like it?
Yeah.
What'd you think of the newest record, the newest album?
I love it. I think it's so good. I
Nice.
listened to it a bunch of times. The first single that they released, I listened to like over and over.
Okay. You know, it was funny. I was like looking into just as far as like kind of these albums, and then looking into Zayo again, and that was one that I completely forgot that I've like downloaded and, you know, and had it fixed and everything. I've got to go back and listen to it more, because I think I had like one or two full like listens to it, and it sounded really solid, but it wasn't anything that I like, you know, continuously did. So I got to check into that again.
Yeah, you should. It's great.
Now, next I wanted to ask about Immortal. So you got Sons of Northern Darkness. Tell us about that bad boy.
That was the first like black metal album that I intentionally listened to. So like getting into aggressive music in like middle school and early high school, I like was drawn to like a bunch of my friends were into that too, and we were all kind of like trying to find we were trying to one up each other, like finding the most extreme metal stuff that we could find.
Yeah.
And then like black metal was new to me. And even like before I got into Sons of Northern Darkness, I was just kind of like, again, like kind of scared by the music and the imagery of like Cradle of Filth and Dimmu Borgir.
Yeah.
But Immortal, Sons of Northern Darkness, that was the first album that I got that I was like, oh, okay, so this is what black metal can be.
Yeah.
And even though like I don't write anything like close to that, it's still like I love that album. It's a perfect black metal album.
For sure. Yeah, I love that. And, you know, I mean, as far as with, you know, a little bit later with OD, we'll kind of get into that too, you know, as far as like maybe like some of the transitions or inspiration that bands like that, you know, would take. But yeah, I mean, it's like a super influential album, and especially even like a little bit different, but recently like Cannibal Corpse. I don't know if you've listened to their newest album.
I haven't yet, no.
Oh my heavenly God, it is ridiculous. And like, you know, mentioning too some of the stuff that's like scary. If you watch some of their videos that they're putting out, like today, you know, like this is like not stuff from, you know, they're doing some shit that's still pushing boundaries.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Sick. With so this next one, I had never even heard of the band before, so I'm excited to hear, you know, kind of the story behind Starflyer 59. Tell us, what was it? Is it the Fashion Focus? Was that the album?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, tell us about this.
That one is it should be predicated by like I also got into more like artsy indie rock and stuff like that. So like OK Computer by Radiohead was another album that like really blew me away when I first listened to it. And I mean, I was 9 years old when it came out, so I didn't listen to it until like well after it was released, and all the critical acclaim that was heaped all over it and everything had like settled down. But with Starflyer, especially with the fashion focus, that to me was like, oh, so like it sounds crazy now, but I compared those two albums at the time when I first heard them. Okay. And that like if I were to listen to them for the first time now, they'd probably sound almost nothing alike to me. Yeah. But especially, I mean, Starflyer being another Tooth and Nail band, Christian band, making that kind of music, you know, using acoustic guitars and synthesizers and pianos and soft singing, high singing. That was like, oh, this is cool. It's like a Christian version of like a Radiohead, even though like that sounds crazy now. That's what I was thinking in my mind.
Right.
And that's still, I mean, the Fashion Focus is another one of my top 10 albums ever. Top 3 bands for me with Starflyer. Yeah. So.
Okay, nice. You know, and that was kind of a thing too, you know, I guess a funny mention with going back and thinking of, you know, music that was at the time, you know, where like, it wasn't so much, you know, accessibility to a lot of different things. So you would hear bands that today, you know, you go back and you listen, you're like, man, how did I compare these two bands? Like, how did I have these two bands on a mixtape? Like, this shit doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
But if you make it, you know, today, I mean, you can literally find 15 different bands that sound like sonically, like almost, you know, alike with something, you know. So that's kind of funny, and something that I miss equally. I think about, you know, like the the simplicity of what music was for a long time there.
Yeah, totally.
With so next up, the last one here is Nine Inch Nails, The Downward Spiral. Where did that get introduced to you?
That was when I was also like way after it was released. I was like a junior or senior in high school, so like 05, 06. I kind of always associated Nine Inch Nails with like Hot Topic goths, and like never thought that like it was like smart music or cool music or anything like that.
Yeah.
But when I finally did check them out, I was like, the Downward Spiral especially just like blew me away. And still, whenever I listen to it, especially just front to back, that is like, it's a very big influence on me when it comes to like atmosphere, the way that the songs all flow, the whole album flows, and like tells a story, and like it takes you on a journey with it, where like a super intense song is followed by a really soft song, especially like right at the end of the album, and just like the coldness of everything too. Like there's like very little bass to it. It's a lot of like really like harsh guitars and drums. So yeah, I mean that album is huge for me.
Totally. Yeah. You know, with that album too, you know, kind of like going back and listening and looking into it, I specifically remember March of the Pigs being something that I always thought was so cool, and I would go and like constantly work at it trying to play along with it on drums. And that being a specific song that I was just like, fuck, screw this. I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds so cool and almost simple in a way, but once again with Nine Inch Nails, it's like, God, I cannot, like, my hands and feet aren't doing this. Like, it's just, I want to be able to go to school and tell my friends that I learned this, and I'm not getting there.
Gotta get all the way over to the low time.
Right. So now, as far as, you know, with your interest in listening to music transition into playing, where did that start? You know, as far as maybe first instruments and you know, how you were introduced to playing.
I started my first band when I was in 8th grade, I think, with some of my school friends, and we were like really into like Radiohead and Starflyer, and we kind of, as we like kept playing together through high school, a lot of us went down like different musical paths, and I think that's why it like we kind of like, I don't know, sometimes bands just wear out their time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we all started being into really similar things, and then just wanting to play that kind of stuff together. We would, you know, we had like horns in some songs and piano in some songs, and
Oh wow.
Of course, delay guitar. Gotta have that.
Was it like a collection of pedals, just, you know, and only using one or two, or was it like a used Varet?
It was, if I remember correctly, we had a few kind of like cool, expensive things that, I mean, I didn't own any of them.
Yeah.
But that was like, we were still in high school, so like nobody had like pedal boards and stuff like that. We probably should have, but.
Right. Now this was you playing bass, right?
Yeah.
Okay, got you. Where did you end up getting your first bass? Or how did that come about?
From my dad. My dad has a couple of basses, and really like, I didn't get my own until I was probably a junior in high school or something. Before that, I was just like borrowing his bass for shows and recording and stuff like that. So yeah.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's so you go and you end up getting that, and then you play this first, you know, this first band. Where, you know, what are some memories that come up as far as like first times recording, and, you know, even shows? Like, did you have to have a couple of shows that you stumbled over and, you know, like unplugged your bass from the amp or anything like that, where finally things started like setting in?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I guarantee that we did. I remember our first show was Halloween 2004 in a garage, and we actually covered a Starflyer song.
Nice.
And yeah, I mean, there were so many shows played through high school that were just like, it's kind of embarrassing to think about now because like we didn't care about being timely or professional or like if something went wrong, we would like spend 10 minutes like, hey, does anybody have an extra instrument cable? Like laughing with our friends about it. And,
Right. You're only allotted 25 minutes and like 15 of it's like you asking for other people's shit.
yeah. Yeah.
Nice. That's funny. What about going in the studio? So, whatever the first band was, you're going into the studio. What was that like? Was that something that was a little overwhelming, or was it, oddly comfortable to go in and just slap out your parts?
The first time recording was with my good friend Matt, who I still talk to from time to time. He knew how to do a lot of that stuff. He was like a few years older than us at the time. And he just like volunteered to record us, which is like insane to think about now. But we did it. We recorded it at my friend's church. It was our drummer's church. And it took like over a month. Like he brought like the big computer monitors and everything, had to have like his whole setup in there. I don't know how we did it in like an open, like functioning church.
Yeah.
But like we recorded drums in the sanctuary with like room mics like at the back of the sanctuary to get like the room reverb and stuff like that. So it was actually like really cool and open and like experimental and like with one of our good friends who we felt incredibly comfortable with. And I still listen to it like every once in a while. It sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Nice.
It sounds like it's from the early 2000s, but like
Right.
it's still a cool little relic of my past.
Yeah. I mean, it's something fun to look back on and kind of hear. Like, so with you recording, I mean, especially drums. I mean, was it something that was like really, really big sounding? How did that affect that? Did you guys have to do like a lot of like, I don't know, not soundproofing, but that sounds like that would be a huge sound.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember being at that church like every Saturday and just like hanging out. It was like super casual and again like probably extremely unprofessional because we were just like little high schoolers like borrowing our parents' instruments and stuff. But I mean, I just remember it being like just kind of along for the ride. Like my friend who was recording us knew what he was doing. So he would like plug everything in and, all right, I'll just play my parts. That's cool.
This is just not like you're on anybody else's like time frame or anything like that. You just do what you got to do.
Yeah.
That's funny. Go out and like buy like Subway or some sort of meal and come back and eat it on like and all over their carpet and that's boy, being young, I guess is at least we learn from this shit though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
At least we're not doing this stuff now. Well, at least I feel like we're not.
Yeah. Hopefully.
So yeah, right. So as far as like over the years being involved, you've been in Tall Ships, Aksumite, and recently even a project with Obliti Devoravit. Tell us about a favorite track from each of these. Just something that's a personal favorite of yours.
For Tall Ships, I'd probably say Sign of the Times, which is our first song off the Vultures EP, which is now available for streaming on Cold Fade Records.
Oh shit! Okay.
Shout out to Brett.
Yeah,
our buddy Brett.
Do you know is the vinyl still available or did that sell out already?
I should know, but I don't.
Brett, if you're in here, leave a comment, doggy.
Yeah. I know I got my copy. That's what matters.
Touche. So now, as far with Aksumite, for someone who hasn't heard the band, what is something that you would put out there? Yeah, sold out.
For my favorite songs for Aksumite, I really, really love the Draped Around the Answers EP that we did. And the second song that really, I mean, it's tracks 2 and 3 kind of, they go right into each other. They work really well together. So probably those 2 tracks, Evangeline Prism and Enslavement, I think are just like, they're so ripping. I love those songs.
Yeah, totally. That's with OD now. This is your own personal project, correct? Like you do everything on this. You sing and you play guitar, bass, drums, all this, right?
Yep.
Okay. What can you tell us about, like what is a track if somebody's never heard this band? What would be something that you would put out shamelessly?
I mean, I really love the second track of the latest OD single, Summer Sun. It's a cool, like, mid-tempo blast beat song. I'm really proud of, like, the guitar parts and the harmonies that are in there and stuff like that. But I think that I'm really proud of all three of those songs, especially. That's kind of more the direction that I'm heading down, I think.
Okay.
So
like with that being a project that you're doing everything, do you find yourself going over and over the stuff? Do you find yourself kind of, taking a more lengthy approach as far as with writing and playing before going and recording? Or is it something that, you kind of whip up and you just make sure that it sounds good and you're a fan of it and there it is?
I mean, it's a lot of mulling over things in my head, like over and over and over, especially once I start recording. I'll like export the mixes and like listen to them in my car over and over and over again, which it like really helps me think of like changes I can make or additions I can make. But it starts with like usually something on acoustic guitar, just because like that's what I have in my living room. So I'll just pick that up. A lot of times like it's on a daily basis. And just like mess around and try and come up with something cool. And then I'll try and think of like how a drum part could go and how it can connect to the riff before or after that. And then it usually takes me a while to just like go down to where I record and like actually hit record and start the drums. And like sometimes that's a lot of frustration because like I can't get the drum parts right and I have to do it over and over, and like my legs get tired from doing blast beats all the time, and I'll get like just super pissed off and discouraged. So it's a lot of like frustration, like being in my head over and over and over, thinking about one riff constantly for like days before I actually like put it to a song or something like that. I've also been like really, really either obsessed with wanting to make like one release, like one flowing piece of music where like the songs transition into one another.
Oh, okay.
It's either that or like I just can't write a single song anymore. It seems like just like as its own like standalone thing. I have such a hard time dealing with that because like I want it to go, like I want the feedback to carry over until like the drums start on the next song. Like to make it sound like you're like listening at a show or something. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like to give it like more of like a live, this was recorded in one sitting session, and to like build intensity, kind of like what I was talking about with like the downward spiral, as far as like that being an influence, where it takes, I hoped that it can take somebody on a journey, like to build the intensity and like let you down slowly or let you down quickly, or just, I don't know. That's more what my focus has been like not writing a riff or a song, but like writing 20 minutes of music across 4 to 5 tracks or something like that.
Sheesh. Yeah. No, I mean, do you fall in the situation every once in a while where you're trying to show somebody like you're excited about a riff or something, and you just have an acoustic and you're showing them and you play it and then they're just looking at you like, I don't know, man, that doesn't sound cool.
Yeah.
You're like, no, just wait until I get it in the studio. Like I get, like, I'm just telling you, this part's going to be sweet.
Yeah. I think I have done that. Like, I know I've sent like Damien our friend Damien, some like recordings on my phone of like me playing one little riff on acoustic guitar, like, check this out. And it's like 10 seconds long. I think it
Yeah.
sounds really good.
Yeah.
And like, he's always like super encouraging and everything. But I do think that it's like, I have so much more of a vision of it in my head, my mind's ear, like knowing what I want to try and make it sound like. And I think that I am getting better at like executing that. The more I record, the more I learn from it. So
Okay. Is it so that has to be something? I mean, as far as a learning process, even along the way with so have you played you played drums now in Aksumite as well? But have you played other instruments in other bands?
a little bit. When This Station of Life, another CSR band, used to play shows, I played guitar for most of those shows.
Oh, okay.
And that was really fun, especially because like I didn't write anything for that. So I was just like, okay, these are my parts that I play.
Yeah.
And like I didn't have any of my own gear for that either, because I almost never do. But yeah, it was just like, it was sick to like finally get to play guitar. It's a totally different experience. And it actually kind of made me love and appreciate playing bass that much more. Because like guitar wasn't like everything that I hoped it'd be, I guess. I mean, it was still cool. I'd still love to do that more, but bass that's my arena.
Okay. I was just going to mention, as far as, it was cool, and, maybe even a learning process along with, doing this project solely, by yourself. And then also, going in and doing vocals and doing guitar and doing drums and kind of seeing that whole overall experience. That's something are you involved as well in the recording process too, as far as like in the studio and listening to things and being like, I'm not too keen on that?
Recording studio for who?
For OD.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
When going in and recording, you're doing everything as far as like with like singing, playing drums, guitars, bass, and everything. Are you also involved some with the recording process, as far as like in the studio and kind of listening back to things and mixing, and whether the drums are too high, or a little bit of learning all of that process as well?
Yeah, totally. Sorry, I was confused because I at this moment, like I'm doing most of that myself, like recording myself.
Oh, shit. Okay.
I've got a little setup down here in this room, where I've got a drum set, piano, guitar amp, my computer and everything are down here.
Sick.
So that's another thing that I'm like learning along the way. I've got a new OD mostly recorded too.
Oh, damn. Okay.
And I
nice.
think the plan is I'm struggling with like the mixing and the EQing. I can't quite get everything like exactly the way I want it to. So the plan is I'm going to get a whole day to go mix that with Damien up at his place, which I think will be super cool because it'll be new to me and to him, to like he mixes his own stuff and everything usually, and I do my own stuff, so to kind of like hand off the isolated tracks to somebody else for mixing and EQing, and I'll be there with him, letting him know, make this sound like this or whatever, because I very much have an idea of how I want it to go and how I want it to sound. But he's much, much better at recording and mixing and mastering than I am. So it'll be cool to like just get the recorded tracks mixed by somebody else this time.
Oh, okay. And I mean, having something to add on top of the process along with the writing and all that, but then going in and also, kind of doing a little bit of the things with recording as well. Is this something that you have been, spending some time on this last year, as far as with everything basically shut down, kind of writing a little bit more with that?
Yeah. I mean, not as much as I should. because like I'm a procrastinator and I get easily distracted, and things have still been busy with, I've got a wife and kids at home, so like they got school, work, all kinds of excuses to make about not being productive musically. But
sure.
yeah, I mean, definitely over the last 6 months, especially, working on my setup down here, getting everything like set in place, and just being more intentional about like having a place to go to think and record and write and learn and practice. That's been really, really good for me.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
Nice. Let's dig in a little bit as far as like with OD and kind of mentioning production and things like that, because initially listening to some black metal or listening to, some different albums that might even be death metal, on at least to my ear initially, there's a lot of times where I go in and the album starts playing and you're like, God, did they mix this, or was there like any sort of production? Like, what in the hell is going on? Like, this sounds so fucking wild. But there's a method to the madness, like when you listen to so much more. What would you say? What pops out to you, as far as different aspects when going in and being like, okay, this is what I want, like my stuff to sound like. What are some things that you pick up from some of your favorite black metal albums that production wise, you want to incorporate in your stuff?
I mean, as far as like black metal influence for production, there's not that much for me, even though like maybe it sounds like it. I'm probably not great at like judging my own stuff, but like I'm trying to make my stuff sound as good as it can. I'm just like a very amateur recording engineer. So like I've got like 2 microphones for my drums, and it's not like a super nice drum set. So it sounds scruffy, as Fenris would say. Just naturally, because like I don't know what I'm doing. And it's, it's just a very like basic setup. But I'd say I'm probably more influenced by like hardcore production, where I want it to sound like energetic, and I want the drums to sound like booming and abrasive, and same with like the guitars. I want the bass to sound punchy. I'm trying to make it sound like as good as I can, but it probably ends up with like black metal production, just because like I don't really know exactly what I'm doing.
Guilty by association.
Yeah. And I mean, the songwriting style probably helps too.
Yeah. Okay, guys. All right, so moving on, as far as with OD, Aksumite, and Damien Master recently releasing a memoriam to Bathory. Tell us, how did this come about, from your memory? How did this bad boy, start up and then come into fruition?
I think Damien and I had talked about this for like a very, very long time. I mean, we've listened to Bathory together countless times and like just talked about them. And we had mentioned multiple times too, doing something together where it's like a single release with my songs, his songs, and some songs with us together. So I think that was part of it. And then he brought the idea up to do like a Bathory cover and a Bathory style original a while ago. And I started on those once I got this room set up down here in my house as like an official, this is where I go to write and record type of situation. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of worked up over time over the last few years, but especially recently with just like, hey, here's the idea and we need to do this.
Okay.
So
nice. So what goes into writing like a band styled track? Like when you started wrapping your mind around that, what were kind of some key elements where you're like, okay, I have to kind of, not necessarily, I mean, obviously not copying it, but it's, in something in the fashion of, what were some early things that popped in your mind where you're like, okay, this is how this has to sound, or I have to have some of the, these types of parts?
With Bathory, there's kind of like, there's the original, the first three that are like the more traditional sounding black metal. I mean, I say traditional, even though it was like groundbreaking at the time. Obviously, that's what like so much of black metal has been modeled after. And then like there's the Viking stage that came after that in the early 90s. I didn't want to try and pull off anything like that. And so I basically was like, I want to try and make it sound like an early black metal sounding song, like an 80s style black metal song. And I think I mentioned to you that it's more like a Niflheim tribute song, even when it comes to the song title, especially when it comes to the song title and like the sound of the solo in it and everything. It's like, it's probably more Niflheim than Bathory, but like Niflheim basically is a Bathory tribute band.
Yeah.
Which rules.
Yeah. So with something like that too, like was there certain things even like lyrically that you kind of, were making sure to like nod at or anything, or, was there something in particular that was a little bit more tough than you would imagine when writing this track? Seduced by Evil, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
The name just came to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that song title, like, is very
Ripped,
much
first of all.
Yeah. And it's also like the lyrics. I mean, I don't have any published OD lyrics or anything, but most of like the lyrical matter is like internal anxiety and struggles, and so Seduced by Evil is just like kind of a mixture of those two things, because it's just I was going for how it's very easy to always want to do the wrong thing, basically.
Shit.
So it's kind of like it's a Bathory style title with like OD style lyrics, I guess.
Okay. All right. Nice. With that EP too, as far as, having OD and then having Aksumite, it kind of brought, to mind as far as with playing drums and playing bass, both very efficiently. Do you feel like each instrument kind of complements how you play? Each one vice versa, as far as, playing the bass kind of complements a little bit with drums, or how you approach drums from playing bass?
Yeah, for sure. I love thinking about like matching the bass part up with the drum kick, sounding like a rhythm section, even if it's just me, trying to be intentional about like, well, if I were to play this kind of bass part, what kind of drum part would I like to play it along with, or vice versa.
Okay. Yeah.
If I come up with a cool bass line, I'll, try and think what kind of drum part would I like to play along with, So I very much think I'm a rhythm section minded person, for sure.
Yeah, totally. Nice. Yeah. And I mean, that's always a cool thing too. And I think almost underrated, a lot of times, as far as there's been so many times playing a show and different things where if anybody's been in a band and somebody who's playing, it's like always one of those things where, as a drummer playing, it's always the bassist that I'm like looking for if I'm losing everything. Cause I'm like, I go to listen, it's just like that fucking tone, so it's one of those things where like that rhythm is always something really important, with me, in my approach with those things, but also, especially live shows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Thank God that motherfucker's there. Cause, otherwise everything's falling apart.
Yeah. And it's great too, cause that's me and you.
So sick. Yeah.
We are the rhythm section.
Here we are. So let me ask, as far as something fun with OD. So now, I was talking recently with somebody, and I brought up a 5 songs, 5 bands, $5 mixtape. All right. Mm-hmm. So you're slinging one of these bad boys. Maybe you're in your New York. Maybe we're in Florida. I don't know, somewhere. You're slinging a mixtape of OD. Okay. What other 4 bands, and specify the track, would be on this mixtape?
It's got to be a Zayo song.
Ooh,
Uh,
okay.
maybe probably Savannah by Zayo off of
Ooh,
Liberate.
yeah. Okay.
Um, then dang, this is a tough one. Uh, let's see. Um, oh my gosh, I am completely blanking. I can't think of like song titles right now.
Or even the bands, if that helps out a little bit. You know, like you
Yeah,
want three other bands along with OD and Zayo. Who are the other bands going to be on this bad boy?
Nine Inch Nails for sure.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
something off a Downward Spiral. I am completely blanking on song titles. Oh,
That's okay.
The Eraser with that cool
Oh
like
yeah,
drum
yeah.
part at the beginning.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
There you go.
Let's see, two more. Dang. Uh, the Hope Conspiracy.
Yeah. Okay.
The first track off of True Nihilist, that EP that they did. I cannot think of the song title. I
Yeah.
should
I
have
know.
thought
I
more
know
about
me
this.
some HopeCon, but yeah, I
Yeah,
wouldn't be able to pull out that track name.
yeah. And then maybe like Painted Black. Um, I'm also completely blanking on the song title. Salem. Salem by Painted Black.
Okay, okay, nice. Well, I like that because I thought you were going to go a little bit more of like the darker, blacker death metal route, and having it be, like truly like a mixtape, and having some other shit where it's like, hey, if you're picking it up because of my band, here's some other bands that you might dig that are also, in an alternate, similar realm. So
Yeah.
that's sick. I like that. Good answer with that shit. All right. So last but not least, what I wanted to ask, another, kind of silly, fun one here is there was a movie in the 90s called Judgment Night. And basically what they did was they had a soundtrack where it had, metal bands mixed with hip hop. So let's say even OD gets to be on, a soundtrack like this, and you can do a collaboration with a rapper or a hip hop artist with this band. Who would you want to have a collaboration with?
Uh, I can think of two. One, the first one is kind of cheating because it's not a hip hop artist, but he's associated with a lot of hip hop artists.
Oh, okay.
Agent Sasco or Assassin. Uh,
Oh, okay.
I think he would be awesome, especially if it were like Aksumite or something.
Oh,
Probably be
nice.
more fitting for that. Probably both my answers actually. Uh, the other one would probably be OG Mako because he's just got like the bitch you guessed it guy. Like he's always like, I love his like crazy yells that he does. And he's got that energy that like, especially like Aksumite, I think, would work well with Aksumite.
Yeah,
That
nice.
just like crazy animalistic energy.
I love that's always something too. People even like dog on like something like body count or something, but it's like when you have Ice-T's energy that he
Yeah.
puts out there, it's like he could be completely full of shit with some of the things he said, but it's like you're listening, you're like, yeah, I believe it. Yeah,
Yeah.
he shot that dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's always one thing where it's like even it might be cheesy lyrics or it might be goofy or whatever, but it's like I think that energy, and especially if you haven't heard that soundtrack, check it out because there is some sweet. I should have wrote down some of the bands. Helmet. There was maybe even Biohazard. It was like all
Dang.
these sick ass bands that had like rappers over them.
Nice.
I think Slayer might have even been one of them that had, I think, Ice-T on it.
Oh, nice.
I'm trying to think of who else would have been, but the soundtrack was like more notorious than what the movie even was, because it was just like one of those things where people were like, "What the fuck?" You have all these different like out of genre bands, doing collaborations and things. So
Yeah, that would be sick, actually.
yeah, so cool. I know that'd be even something cool now that I'm talking about this out loud, like doing something like a collaboratory thing, like for like an EP or something like with you guys. If you guys reached out to like other artists or something.
Mm-hmm.
I'll delete this just in case you need to use that, my dude.
All right.
All right. So that's our interview, my dude. I do have the last finale question, but if you want to let everybody know, you mentioned a new OD. Do you have some other stuff that's coming up here?
Um, I am working on some stuff
That you can say. Yeah, I was gonna say don't put anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably
Put
nothing
anything
that
on
I can
blast.
say, but there are
Okay.
things in the works.
Sweet.
But yeah, like I said, the new OD is mostly recorded musically. Still have a couple of finishing touches here and there, and actually, like I know I mentioned like getting this whole like studio set up down here in my basement.
Mm.
I'm moving in like 2 or 3 weeks, so I'm gonna have to like get it reset up somewhere else.
Oh
I
no.
mean, hopefully it'll be a better situation, but
Yeah, right.
I mean, I'll work with whatever. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna be working on more stuff now that I have like a legit setup of my own. So
Sweet, sweet. Okay, cool. Yeah, I had to put that disclaimer out there as well, not putting out a bunch of shit that you're not supposed to, or because every once
yeah,
in a while people are like, I probably shouldn't be talking about this. Well, don't. I'm not trying to put you in some hot spot, you
yeah,
know. But
I got you.
cool. No, I love that. Sweet. So that'll be really cool, you know, as far as with that, and it's always fun as far as you know, like some of the work that you do, you know, with CSR and Damien, and it's always sick seeing some of the you know the physical releases that come with those too. So those.
Yeah, totally.
Lots of good shit coming down. I
I
love
wish I could
that.
take credit for some of the ideas.
Me too. All right, so for a finale here, I wanted to ask, you know, as far as primarily being a bassist and playing, if you could recreate any one bass tone from a favorite album of yours, you're listening to it, just even today, it's still your favorite. You have a project coming up. We'll even say, even with like Prison Suicide, and you could recreate a bass tone for that. It's the same exact thing.
Uh-huh.
What would you slap out?
Whew, this is a good one. Uh, hmm. I mean, the first thing that always comes to mind for me when it comes to bass tone is the bass sound on Paracletus by Deathspell Omega. It's just like it's so perfect sounding. So I guess
Damn.
that would have to be my answer. That's
Nice.
the best bass
Nice.
sound.
Like, have you ever looked into anything as far as like pedals or like the heads or anything like that that they were using around or that bassist uses?
I mean, they are especially a mysterious band, so I don't think that information
Oh,
can be
okay.
found anywhere.
Oh, right.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, I've loved listening to bass tones and trying to recreate them myself, and I think trying to mimic something can sometimes churn out its own cool idea.
Original.
So,
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
mhm.
I dig that. All right. Yeah. And that's cool too. Even with like writing sometimes, you know, like something where you go and, you know, you're listening to some shit and then you are learning it and it just pops out something that's not nothing, anything like it, but, you know, something kind of fun. You're like, oh, well, maybe
Yeah,
I'll work with
totally.
that.
Yeah,
Nice. Well, dude, this has been absolutely sick. I really, really appreciate it. You know, I look forward to everything that you have coming up here and, hopefully we can play some shows here soon.
yeah, that'd be great.
Get something going with all this shit and yeah, I don't know,
Yeah,
open things up.
yep, for sure.
Dude, well, thank you so much. I appreciate the time here. This has been sick. I'll have this edited and I'll have it up on YouTube here within like the next couple of weeks. And yeah, good luck with moving if you have that going on.
Yeah, thank you.
But this has been cool, man. Thank you very much. First and
Yeah,
foremost, I
thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Yeah, this
This
was
has
great.
been very cool, and we'll be in contact, buddy. You take
All
care.
right, you too.
All right, got Lo-Fi Horror Guy, my dude Tim. Check out OD, Aksumite, Tall Ships. What other bands am I missing? I do have to ask that really quick
I
that you're
mean,
involved with. Are those the primary ones, right?
I would say just keep paying attention to CSR. But yeah, those are the
Yeah.
primary ones.
yeah, touche. Just keep looking through those, and I'll be around somewhere. You know,
Yeah,
maybe I'm in like a still shot of on the cover or anything like
yeah.
that. Nice. All right, dude. Well, thank you very much. This has been awesome. You take care.
You too.
All right. Bye bye.
He's a lo-fi horror guy. Yeah, he's kind of a guy, but he is so lo-fi, a horror guy. Yeah. Lo-fi horror guy has been recorded in front of a live studio audience.